A lot of years as I worked for other people, I did not understand that people were going to buy me and then get what I sold. I always thought they were buying the things that I sold. And it was interesting. My last career, I was working for a sales training organization, and we sold a very specific sales methodology. It was a 7-step process, and you took a client through each of these stages. And for the first couple years of selling this sales training, I heavily focused on selling the methodology, the steps, the story, the history, and everything about that particular sales strategy. And then I closed one of the largest deals I've ever closed in my life. And the CEO of that company, after we signed the contracts and everything to move forward, pulled me aside and said, Donnie, there's something very specific that you need to know here. And I said, okay, what's that? And he said, I did not buy that sales training program. I bought you and your ability to work with my team, my people, and I want you to understand the methodology, I'm sure, is great, but I want my people to be able to do what you've done with me. And it was a really, really, really wild moment for me because it was a complete mental shift from what I had known up to that point in my life, because I really thought people bought the brand I sold. I thought they bought the methodology. I didn't think people were buying me. And this really flipped my mental game to a whole different level. And I had to take a really hard look at all the things I was doing and how I was showing up. I mean, I used to wear that brand's logoed shirts, and I had their hats, and I carried their business cards, and I represented that brand. I mean, literally, you could almost look at me like a superhero for that brand because I was damn near a walking billboard. And then I started showing up as me. I took off the branded shirts, I took off the logoed apparel. I started putting myself out there, and it was really, really, really wild to figure out what my personal brand actually was, who I was, how I was going to show up. And I think there was, like you do when you're going through school and stuff, you get those awkward phases. I think there was a lot of personal change and discovery that was going to have to happen for me to really create this personal brand, the guy that you see before you now. And so when I launched my company, Success Champions, I went through a series of moments where I was trying to figure out, how do I show up as me? What's going to be that thing that helps me put my brand out there? And I'll tell you a couple of quick stories of how I ultimately got to the t-shirt wearing, ball cap wearing, talking like I talk guy, and those moments that made that happen. So the first one is, I was about a year and a half into the business, and I'd been invited to speak at a podcasting summit down in Florida. And at this point, I wore button-down shirts and blue jeans and boots, but no ball caps. I wasn't cussing a whole lot, and I was getting ready to go on stage to talk about podcasting and what it had done for my business. And right before I went on stage, the gentleman who had invited me to come down and speak pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I need a favor." And I said, "Okay, what's the favor?" And he said, "Please don't go full Donnie." And I looked at him and I said, "What does that mean, don't go full Donnie?" And he said, "I'm afraid you're going to upstage me." And I laughed at him and I said, "That is the dumbest thing you could have said right before I walk on stage." And literally, they're calling my name to come out, right? So I run up on stage, and I'd never done this in my entire life before this, but I walked out on stage and I said, "Where the fuck are all my badasses at?" And like 95% of the room goes freaking bananas, right? So there was one table in the corner that I'd offended them to like their core. You could tell that because of profanity has showing up that way, that, you know, I personally had offended them. I didn't think I offended them. That's on them. If you take offense, that's on you, right? And so I instantly also understood that, one, that was the first time I never shown up as me, but two, by showing up as me, I find my people. And by my people, I mean the people that are just into my way of doing things. So I want to walk you through building your personal brand and kind of 5 steps that you need to do to be able to put your personal brand out there. And it was like moments like that stage that made me realize that people will do business the more you show up as you. So the first thing you need to do is really think about what makes you unique. And for me, I have always had an edge on me, right? So the rooms I walked into, I was tend to be loud. I like being center of attention as long as I can control it. I like being in leadership style roles. I'm always going to step up. I'm never going to be a guy on the sidelines. That's one thing that makes me unique. Two, I like wearing ball caps. I know it sounds silly, but having a ball cap on, one, I'm lazy. I don't want to do all my hair and everything. But two, it's a distinguishing look and style. Three, I like to cuss. It's a fun language. It's how I show up. You meet me in person, I speak the same damn way. And my family has even learned to just embrace it. And I don't know if all the cussing comes from my time in the military or if it comes from just a country lifestyle, but I just, it's who I am. And so after that moment on stage, I realized that the dude you see now is going to have to come out and start showing up in the world. So in my content, in my networking and the likes, my kind of thing that made me unique is you were going to get the t-shirt wearing, ball cap wearing guy who was still loud but very passionate and genuine about helping people. And man, the more I did this, 2 things happened. One, the old codgers came out and were like, hey, uh, you know, if you cuss, you're not going to get business like you think you're going to get business. And the second thing that happened is I got a ton of business for people who loved that I was me. And the number of people that have come up to me and said, dude, because you show up so loud the way you do, it's allowed me to show up as me. And he goes, I've had, people with pink and purple hair come up to me and they're like, man, I just so enjoy that you're so embracing of people being genuine and who they are. And that's allowed us to show up as who we are. So that's been really, really cool. So what makes you unique? What makes you set yourself apart from everybody else? And there's something, right? That don't think that, hey, I'm just nobody here, right? Or I'm just a blend in with the crowd. There's something that makes you very, very unique. And it could be the simplest things, from ball caps. It could be maybe you wear funny t-shirts, or maybe you wear really bright boots. I know a guy who used to wear these really colorful suits. I mean, extravagant colors. And his wife, when they went to these training events, would dye her hair to match his suits. It was the coolest thing in the world. So what makes you unique? And I want you to think about, how you talk, how you dress, how you show up. What makes you set yourself apart? The second thing you got to do with your personal brand is you've got to get to a specific target audience. You got to talk to people that are uniquely positioned to be into how you show up and how you put yourself out there. So for me, it became a really easy thing. I went after small business owners and entrepreneurs because I could speak to them, because I was going through the same problems and issues as they were. So what I found is, by focusing on these entrepreneurs and small business owners, specifically in the service-based industries, people that didn't sell products and stuff, I was able to speak a very particular language. I could share my stories, my screw-ups, the things that I failed at, and it resonated with them because they had either gone through it or were going through it. And by me showing up and putting out the content and the things that spoke directly to that, they leaned into the conversation and they got a lot more out of it. And that was really, really fun for me because I didn't have to overly think about what kind of content and things. I didn't have to think about what I was saying at networking. I didn't have to put a whole lot of strategy and game plan into. I just showed up and talked about the things that I was interested in, and it worked. And more people started showing up for maybe different workshops I did or events I was holding, and the company started growing because I was really, really focused on this niche. And look, here's the thing: people always say niche down, and it drove me nuts for a lot of years because I didn't understand it. But the idea of niching is plays in a couple of important key roles here. So when you look at a specific niche, whether it's industry or target market or whatever, the main things you're thinking about is who is that specific person I want to sell to. And the more specific you can get, the more you're going to learn how to sell to that unique person, which is going to teach you how to sell to everybody else down the road and allow you to expand. You look at it, Amazon, you know, freaking started as a book company and now sell everything, and it took them years to hit that trajectory. So it's the same thing here. Let's get good at selling to one specific niche. So not only do you get good at selling to that niche, but now you become extremely referable because you become the known authoritarian, the known leading expert on that niche and your service to that niche. And then third, it helps you clarify your message because you know what you're saying in your content and how to speak to them. So it's really, really important to help you get dialed into that. So the third thing you need to figure out is what is your brand about? So the people don't understand that your brand, specifically your personal brand, has got to tell a story, and it's got to be able to take people on a journey. So a lot of my brand is built on the idea that I'm going to teach everything I wish somebody would have told me as I was going through it, because it was so hard to build a business, and it continues to be hard as I continue to learn and scale things out. But the idea that the journey I was going to take people on is I was going to use my business journey to help them on their journey gave them a story that they could tie into wherever they were at. So whether they were way behind me, close, or right next to me, they could follow along and learn. So you got to figure out, what is that story? What's that journey you'll take them on that they can learn from and be able to go with, so they can be interested in whether they want to buy your services ultimately or not. So think about, how are you showing them success through the brand story that allows them to get the same results by following the journey. The fourth thing you need to do is really hone in on a singular topic. If you watch most people's content and the things they put out there, they're talking about everything. I was just as guilty of this, man. We've had a ton of companies. I've had a podcast company, I've had a magazine, I've had a content company, a video production company. We've had consulting companies, coaching companies. We've had a ton of different businesses. And I can be honest with you that if you looked at our content over the years, it's almost like I've been that guy in that trench coat with all the watches on the inside that's selling whatever anybody's willing to buy. And when you splash the marketplace with all this different content, you confuse the marketplace on what it is you're actually about. So what I want you to do, just like you niche your target audience, I want you to niche your content. Now you can do this in batches and say, okay, for the next 5-6 months or whatever, I'm going to talk about this specific niche and this specific topic, because you will start to tell a story. So I do this kind of in these story arcs where we'll map out the year, and usually by quarter, and look at, okay, what are we going to focus on and talk about for this quarter? So As we're in the first quarter of the year, we're talking a lot about networking. We're talking a lot about getting dialed into a pure group of people that can help you grow your business, that are invested in you, and those type of things. And that's really helped us grow Success Champions Networking and bring a lot of the right people. As we get closer to the latter part of the year, you'll hear us shift over to the Badass Business Summit and talk more about getting around people that are high energy, looking to scale, and who are proactively trying to grow their business. And we'll talk a lot about those things because we're heading towards the Badass Business Summit. But we don't go like Monday talk about networking, Tuesday talking about the Badass Business Summit, Wednesday talking about masterminds, Thursday talking about the farm or whatever else. We get very, very laser focused on a singular topic at a time and stay there until we learn to tell the story arcs and learn to take people on the journey with us to be able to promote whatever we're promoting. But it's also got to be real, right? This can't be things that you make up. This has got to be real, genuine stuff that you're giving to people so they can use it in their world. Number 5, this one's another one that I struggled with for the longest time, is you need to focus on a singular platform where you're going to build that personal brand. I am notorious for freaking doing the shotgun approach where I try and hit all the platforms. And what I realized is ultimately the best way I could personally do it was replicate the same content across all the platforms. And look, each social media platform is so unique and individualized that you can't do it all yourself. It's way too much heavy lifting. We're bringing in teams now to help me get different things dialed in, because you've got to completely be immersed, understand, and appreciate the platform to have success on it. So as part of your personal branding, you need to pick a singular platform. Like there's a gal by the name of Leah Turner that I love following on LinkedIn for a couple years now. And I think her handles on most of the things is Leah does LinkedIn. And what's amazing is Leah built this mastercraft of a personal brand on LinkedIn, and she got that dialed into a couple 100,000 followers on there. And now she's emerged and she's gotten really big on Twitter. She's getting really big on Instagram. But she got so dialed in on a singular platform that as she jumped to the other social media outlets, her people followed her along. Like the first time I saw her pop up on Twitter, I was like instant follow. First time I saw her pop up on Instagram, instant follow, because I love her content. And you can tell she's got a team behind her that's developing her content because all of her stuff is unique to the platform, which is massive and huge. So don't worry about doing all the socials. Pick one and let's go big on that one. And that way you can focus on getting really, really dialed in on your following, your people, your tribe. So if you go through and you implement all 5 of these, what you're going to find is your personal brand really starts showing up. And the ultimate cool thing here is as you get all 5 of these together, then the idea of a personal brand really happens, because what you say to the world, that's marketing and advertising. What the world says when you're not around is personal branding. So by you doing these 5 things, people will start saying the right stories and sharing the right content and telling people more and more about you. So I hope you got a ton out of this video, guys. A lot of fun to put together. Do me a favor. I'd love for you to comment below about specifically any area you wish I would clarify further or give you more information about, and share this out with somebody who you think would get a lot of value from this. Subscribe and ring that bell. Thanks, guys. Love you, mean it. See you, bye.